There are journeys that seem like just a short internship, but turn out to be paths you never return from. That rainy season, my university assigned me to intern in Kon Lang district, a remote region on the border between Gia Lai and Kon Tum. A place where pine forests intertwine with endless coffee fields, and the morning fog feels like needles piercing the skin. My name is Khai, a final-year nursing student. The internship lasted 2 months. But I still remember clearly. It took less than 10 days before I started dreaming about her. Are you crazy? Why go to a place where even chickens and dogs don't survive? That was Tuan, my classmate, his eyes wide as I packed my things. I laughed, carefully folding my raincoat and grabbing my menthol oil. I like the mountain air. And the hospital up there doesn't get many interns. So I'll get more hands-on experience. Won't have to stand around waiting to clock in. Tuan grimaced. Be careful of forest spirits. The locals worship some creepy stuff. A senior once went there and disappeared for a whole week. When he came back, he quit school. I gave him a weak smile. I wasn't superstitious. But later, I wished I had listened to him. Kon Lang District Hospital had just 1 ground floor and 2 old brick buildings connected by a corrugated metal roofed hallway. The intern dorm was a small room by the edge of the forest, nestled against a steep slope. 4 iron bunk beds, but I was the only one staying there. The walls were cracked and moldy. The air damp, but it was quiet and private. I felt content. No one dared stay in this room last year. The gate guard warned as I carried in my backpack. A female patient committed suicide here. People say her ghost shows up in dreams. He glanced quickly into the room, then leaned closer and whispered. Some say they saw her standing in the rain, hair covering her face, arms wrapped around her belly, soaked in blood. But no one ever hears the rain. I said nothing, just quietly closed the door. That first night, it rained. Not heavy rain, but cold. Mountain rain doesn't pour, it trickles. Like someone crying softly right behind the wall. I lay facing the wall, blanket pulled over my head. Around 3 a.m., I jolted awake. My eyes hadn't opened yet, but my ears picked up the sound of footsteps outside the porch. Not fast, not slow, each step heavy, like waterlogged feet dragging on wood. Khai, I shot up. Someone had just called my name. Very close, very clear, but no one was there. I opened the door. Outside, the rain fell softly under the pale yellow porch light. No one, just the smell of damp earth, and a faint scent of something. Wildflowers, mixed with dried blood. The next morning, I mentioned it to the head doctor. Sir, I heard someone call my name outside last night. A woman's voice. But when I opened the door, no one was there. He gave a forced smile. Then replied slowly. There was a girl who stayed in room 6. She had a high fever for almost a week. When she woke up, she kept calling one name. Khai, don't leave, come back. Khai. She committed suicide not long after. I froze. I had never met her. But why was she calling my name? The second night, I dreamt of that voice again. Khai, I'm cold. This time, in the dream, I saw her standing outside the window. Her long hair covered most of her face. A white dress. A red cord tied around her waist, dark as blood. She didn't scream, didn't threaten, just stood there. I'm waiting for you. I jumped up, my forehead soaked in sweat. My heart pounding like it wanted to escape my chest. I didn't dare fall asleep again. The next morning, I asked to visit the hospital's records room. I'm looking for the medical file of any female patient who died last year. Any name is fine, but it must mention the name Khai. The records clerk stared at me for a while, then flipped through the logbook. She stopped at one page, paused, then went silent. There's one, her name was HMI. 22 years old, from the village Dak Ro Ve. She was admitted with severe malaria. During her delirium, she kept calling someone named Khai, but no one knew who that was. She used her IV tubing to strangle herself during a night shift when no staff were around. I shivered. I had never met her. But why could I see her face so clearly in my dreams? That evening, I decided to visit Dak Ro Ve village. A doctor from the hospital agreed to let me ride along in the government vehicle. The red dirt road snaked through the forest. Rugged, hard to travel. As we neared the village, the doctor pulled over, turned to me, his eyes a mix of warning and sympathy. They practice Ngải Yêu there, love charm magic. When someone dies for love, and the ritual is done right, their soul can bind someone to stay with them, forever. Be careful, you might be cursed and not even know it. I clutched my backpack and nodded. I don't believe in that, but I need to know. Why she knew my name. And when I stepped into the old stilt house, once HMI's home, I saw the picture hanging loosely in the middle room. A charcoal drawing of me. It was me, my face, my eyes, my smile, all captured in detail, even though I had never been there, never met her. Below the picture was a line written in dried blood. The charm I cast just needs you to return. The charcoal portrait left me speechless. I stood frozen inside the thatched roof wooden house, where beams of sunlight pierced through the cracks in the walls like needles, shining directly onto the now yellowing image. I've never met her. How could she draw me so clearly? I turned to ask the elderly woman beside me. That was Wai Lum, HMI's distant aunt. The villagers said she was the only one who had ever survived a curse reversal ritual 30 years ago. She gently brushed the fabric curtain hanging below the drawing, her voice whispering like the wind rustling through the forest. She didn't draw that. The Ngải Yêu did. When the charm blooms, the image of the beloved appears, drawn in charcoal, in blood, in dreams. I took a step back. I wasn't sure if it was out of fear or the sudden chill down my spine. But I've never met her. I'm not the one she loved. Wai Lum didn't respond right away. She picked up the offering cup from the altar, softly blew away some of the ashes, and handed it to me. At the bottom of the cup was a lock of hair wrapped around a small piece of wood, perhaps a finger bone. You were the one she chose to keep. Love is not required. We left HMI's house just as the sky started to shift toward rain. I looked back and saw the fabric curtain swaying in the wind, as if someone behind it was brushing it gently. I don't believe in this guy stuff. But how did she know my name? I asked again, one last time, as Wai Lum led me down the slope. She stopped, reaching into her blouse to pull out an old piece of cloth, wrapped tightly in layers of plastic. This was found inside HMI's bra the night she died. Inside were blood, hair, and she slowly unwrapped the bundle. Inside was a yellowed piece of notebook paper, the violet ink mostly smeared. Your name, your phone number, and a photo ID. My mouth hung open. I couldn't believe it. This is my student ID photo from freshman year. Ngải Yêu doesn't choose the nearest. It chooses those with old karma. On the way back to the hospital, I sat in the back of the car, my head buzzing with questions. It was pouring. Rainwater ran off the forest into the dirt road, splashing mud up onto the windows. The driver, an old hospital employee, hadn't said a word the entire ride. Only when we neared the hospital did he finally speak. I saw you went to HMI's house, so I should tell you something? I looked up, voice tense. You know something? He didn't answer right away, just stared straight ahead toward the slope. Another Khai, a third-year student, went missing last year. He said he'd been dreaming of a girl named HMI. The night before he vanished, he screamed and ran into the forest. No one ever found his body. I swallowed hard, didn't say a word. He stayed in the exact same room you're in. Night 4. I didn't dare sleep. I turned on the lights. Every light. Left the flashlight on my phone running. Played soft music through my earbuds, just to drown out the sound of the rain. But by 2 a.m., the phone battery died. The desk lamp flickered, and the voice came again. Khai. It no longer sounded sad. It was pleading, like a whisper right behind my neck. I'm here. I opened my eyes. The door was still closed, but the latch had come undone. The door creaked open. A thin mist drifted in, then vanished into the darkness. I didn't know if I was dreaming or awake. Give me back, or stay with me. The next morning, I requested a shift off to go back to Wai Lum's house, but it was locked up. The villagers said she had gone up to the fields at dawn. No one knew where. I was about to leave when I saw a tribal child sitting by the stream. He kept staring at me, his eyes far too knowing for a child. As I approached, he suddenly stood up and handed me a tiny clay jar. There was a strange symbol carved on the outside, like a blooming charm flower with roots sprouting from a heart. Miss HMI said, if you didn't come back, to give this to you. I took it. It was light. When I opened it, there was nothing inside, but the scent made my head throb, my stomach turn, and my vision blur as if shrouded in fog. What is this? The child didn't answer. He just looked at me, then turned and disappeared into the forest. That night, I returned to the dorm. No lights, no music. I just sat there, placing the charm jar on the table, staring at it without blinking. I don't know how long I sat there, but when I looked up, she was already standing there. HMI. For the first time, I saw her face clearly. Beautiful, sad. Her eyes were red, as if she had been crying for years. I didn't mean to scare you, she whispered, her hand resting over her chest, where the red cord was still tightly wrapped around her body. It's just, I don't want to be alone. I stepped back, my voice trembling. Who are you? Why did you choose me? HMI didn't answer immediately. She stepped closer. The wind blew through her hair, carrying the scent of Guy, bitter, earthy, yet strangely gentle. When I was alive, I saw your photo in the hands of a Guy master. They used your image to create a love charm for someone else. But the charm went the wrong way, and it entered me. I stood frozen, speechless. I didn't want that. But when I called out, you were the only one who heard. I collapsed to my knees. Everything spun around me, not because I feared her, but because I realized I was the consequence of a miscast charm, of a karmic loop I had no part in, but couldn't escape. I exhaled slowly, eyes closed. If you don't want to hurt anyone, then let me help you break free from this. She looked at me, her gaze still for a moment, then nodded softly. All right, but you'll have to go back to the village and retrieve the leaf that counters Guy. Only it can cut this love charm. I swallowed hard. You won't harm me, will you? She smiled, so gently. If I wanted to hurt you, you wouldn't have woken up after the first night. Dawn hadn't fully broken, but I was already on my way. I told no one, brought nothing but a small backpack and the clay jar with the scent of Guy. You're sure you want to go in there alone? Wai Lum asked as she pushed her motorbike out from under the thatched shelter. She had returned from the fields just before sunrise, almost as if she had known I'd come. I nodded, eyes fixed on the old path ahead. I have to get the counter Guy leaf. HMI said that's the only thing that can sever the charm. She handed me a small cloth bundle tied with a rubber band. Inside were a few strands of hair, a small bone no bigger than a baby's pinky, and a black-brown seed. Keep this on you. If you see anything strange, throw the seed on the ground. Beyond that, only your heart can keep you from being lost. I tucked the charm carefully away. My eyes met hers. Neither of us said another word. The forest was already calling. I followed the path they called the Old Way, a trail into the forbidden forest, where no one from the village had dared step since the curse reversal of 1994. Grass grew up to my knees, leaves layered thick. The scent of damp earth and tree resin blended into something like the smell of memory. After nearly an hour, the forest no longer felt like a forest. The wind stopped, the birds fell silent, all sound vanished, like it had been swallowed whole. I rested beneath a giant tree. As I reached for my water bottle, I heard a voice. You've come, a woman's voice, very close, but no one was there. I stood up, eyes scanning the trees. HMI? Don't look back, the voice answered, like wind whispering right against my ear. I froze. My hand tightened around the Guy jar in my pocket. Where are you? I'm nowhere, but I'm still watching you. I kept walking, step by step, breath by breath. Then I saw it, a strange shrub growing in a perfect circle. At the center stood a small plant with purple-green leaves that shimmered faintly, as if glowing from within. The counter Guy leaf, I whispered, moving in slowly. But just as my hand neared it, I heard footsteps behind me. You've taken the wrong path. The counter Guy doesn't grow here. I turned around. A girl in a white ba stood barefoot, her feet caked in mud, her hair tied high. Her face was hazy, but her smile was clear. I'm looking for the counter guy leaf. The true counter guy doesn't grow where there's light. It grows in damp soil, between two rotted trees, beneath the root of a lonely bamboo stalk. This one is a dream guide leaf. Anyone who picks it will never leave the forest. I swallowed. She pointed to a narrow path on the left, between two trees split by lightning. Go that way. If your heart is true, you'll find it. But if you doubt, turn back. The forest does not welcome those with two minds. I nodded. She smiled once more, then turned and stepped into the shadows. Before I could call out, she had vanished into the mist, as if she'd never existed. I followed the path she showed me. My feet felt weightless, like gravity had let go. All around me was something else entirely. No sound, no color, just a silver-gray mist, endless and undefined. I kept walking, until I found a lone bamboo clump standing in a patch of red earth. At its base were two fallen trees, rotted and crossed like an X. Right at their intersection, a flickering purple-green glow. A single small leaf, trembling with the rhythm of my heartbeat. I knelt down, wrapped it carefully in a handkerchief, and placed it in my shirt pocket. At that exact moment, the ground gave a sudden jolt. A scream tore through the forest. Give me back? I jumped to my feet. Looking around, the trees shrieked like they were angry. Wind slammed into my face, swirling up dead leaves and the stench of blood. In front of me, rising from the earth, a shape, blurred, but slowly taking form. Give me back? I pulled out the charm Lum had given me. My hands shook so badly I couldn't get the rubber band off. I don't owe you. I came to set you free, not to keep you. That thing let out a roar and rushed at me. Just then, I gripped the seed from the charm and threw it to the ground. The moment it hit, the seed ignited. A burst of light exploded outward like ropes binding the air, and the dark figure burst into pieces in a whirlwind of red dust. I collapsed. When I came to, it was late afternoon. I was lying on the side of the trail, still clutching the cloth wrapped around the counter guy leaf. Cold sweat ran down my spine. My ears still rang with the sounds of the forest. I dragged myself upright, unable to remember how I got out. On the way back, I heard no more voices. No more HMI. No more wind. Only emptiness. Like someone had just pulled the soul out of the space I lived in. That night, I placed the counter guy leaf in the center of the room, exactly as Lum had instructed, on a plate of white salt, sprinkled with strands of a dead person's hair, and a drop of my own blood in the center. HMI appeared exactly at midnight. She was no longer cold, no longer a blur. She entered like a real person, sat down beside me, her eyes fixed on the lamp. You can leave. From now on, I won't keep you anymore. I turned toward her. I didn't know when the tears had started. Can I ask you one last question? HMI nodded. If there were no charm, would you have chosen me? She was silent for a long time, then gently placed her hand on my cheek, with a sad smile that chilled me to the bone. With charm, or without, my heart had already chosen you long ago. When I opened my eyes, dawn was breaking. The counter guy leaf had burned to ash. The piece of paper with my name in the clay jar, gone. No one stood outside the window. No more whispers in my dreams. Only a small clay jar, placed beside my pillow. Carved into the lid were these words: if you remember, come back. I'll be waiting. I stayed in Kon Lang one more week, like someone who had just returned from another world. I didn't see her again. No more dreams. No more anything. But maybe because of that, I felt hollow. Friday morning. The sun was mild. I was on duty in the minor surgery room when the security guard knocked. Someone's asking for you. An old man says he knew HMI. I stepped into the hallway and saw him. A frail old man in an indigo shirt, leaning on a bamboo cane, his hair white as mist, one eye clouded, standing still under the noon sun without blinking. When he saw me, he smiled, but it was not a kind smile. You're Khai? I nodded. He turned and walked away. Follow me, if you want to know why she called your name. We walked nearly 3 kilometers past the old fields to a small house hidden under bamboo and vines. The roof was nearly collapsed. He opened the moldy wooden door and gestured for me to go in first. I stepped inside. On the altar was a portrait of HMI, younger, with a gentle smile. Beside it was a strange carved wooden box. Inside were items I never expected. A photo of me, my freshman student ID. A long black hair, coiled tightly. A small pouch containing white sand and dried guy flowers. And a torn piece of school paper, carefully written by hand. Khai, Nursing Department, University of Medicine and Pharmacy, Saigon. Why are these here? I turned back, my hand trembling. The old man leaned on his cane, his cloudy eye looking as if it saw deep into memory. I was the first to cast a guy spell for HMI's mother. My eyes widened. Her mother? He nodded. Her mother was abandoned by a man from the city. When he left, she journeyed all the way down south, cut her hair, drew her blood, found a guy master to cast a love spell and bring him back. But his voice broke. He never came back. The spell backfired. She went mad. She gave birth to HMI in a trance. The girl was born bound by Guy, her blood infused with the curse. No rituals needed, just thinking too long, too deeply about someone, and the Guy cord would attach itself to that person. I sank into the chair, heart aching. Then, she never really met me? No, but your image was misused by another Guy master. Misused? When you were a freshman, someone hired a sorcerer to cast a love charm on a girl. They randomly picked a person as the conduit, the one whose image would carry the charm into the heart of the target. It hit me like a bolt of lightning. You mean, I was used as bait? Exactly, but instead of going to the intended person, the charm found its way to HMI, who was lying unconscious in the village due to malaria after effects. And the charm rooted itself in her, growing stronger over time. I sat in silence, unable to speak. Every piece of the story came together into a strange and heartbreaking picture. She never intended to hold me back. No, but a charm doesn't care about feelings. It only latches onto the deepest thoughts. And back then, she thought of you every single night. I closed my eyes, recalling the look in her eyes that last time, soft, yet aching, like a wisp of smoke dissolving into air. The old man stepped onto the porch and handed me a worn-out notebook. HMI's diary. She wrote it in Vietnamese. The girl was smart. Before she passed, she left this, said if one day you came, you must read it all, before you go. I took it. On the first page, written neatly, nameless dreams, to the boy I've never met. I read that diary all night. Each page was a lump in my throat. I don't know who you are, but in my dreams, you're always there, waiting for me. Never leaving. We've never spoken, but my heart races whenever I picture that face. The day Mom died, I saw this photo fall out from under the mat. It was you. I kept it. I don't know why. I tried to forget, but the more I tried, the clearer your image became. Am I someone bound by fate? Must I hold on to someone, just so I won't live alone anymore? If one day you really do come, and just look at me once, I'll let go. I closed the diary as dawn approached. It was 4 in the morning. Outside, the sound of light rain tapping on the tin roof echoed. Each drop fell like someone gently touching my heart. I took a piece of paper and wrote a few short lines. I've read it, and I'm here, not because of the charm, but because of you. I folded the note and placed it next to the old earthen jar she once left on my pillow. No one answered, but I knew she was still out there, somewhere. I left Kon Lang on July 18th. The sky was clear, not a cloud in sight. On the bus back to the city, I looked back at the long slope of red dirt. Across it was the quiet forest, where the charm plant once bloomed, and where a girl once chose to love me, wordlessly, without promise. Around my neck, a red string newly tied from that night. No one knows who tied it, but I kept it, as if holding on to something never spoken aloud. The city hadn't changed, still noisy, still hot. The lights of the cars stretched on like an endless stream of time. I returned to school after 2 months of internship. Friends asked how I was. Professors marked attendance. Everything felt like nothing had ever happened. Except, I was no longer the same. Every night, I'd lie on my bed in that small rental room, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. No one called my name anymore. No more dreams. But my heart felt empty. As if a part of me had been left somewhere deep in that forest. Each heartbeat an echo, spreading out, breaking apart, like the touch of someone's hand that never got to say goodbye. Tuan, my best friend, dropped by one rainy afternoon. You look too skinny. Your teeth are pale. Man, wanna go somewhere? Let's head up to Dalat. Get some air. Clear your mind. I shook my head. I'm fine. Probably just not used to city rhythm again. Tuan looked at me for a long moment. Then frowned. Your eyes, they look strange. Like you're staring at a place no one else can go. I smiled. You're right. That night, I was cleaning up my bookshelf. When I opened the bottom drawer, I froze. There it was. An item I never brought back from Kon Lang. The little earthen jar HMI once left beside my pillow. I picked it up. It was light as air. The lid sealed with dried beeswax. But the faint scent of charm herbs still lingered, so light. It made me hold my breath. I opened the lid. Inside was a piece of paper folded in quarters. Not HMI's handwriting. The script was slanted, old, firm strokes. Like a man's. The one who keeps the charm may walk away. But the one kept by the charm never returns. I turned on the big light. The room remained empty. No one stepped out of the shadows. No voices called out. But a breeze slipped through the window, and a photo fell from the bookshelf. I bent down to pick it up. A class photo. First year. I stood in the middle, smiling innocently. But this time, there was an extra person. A girl with long hair. Standing behind me, wearing white, a gentle smile. Her eyes not looking at the camera, but straight at me. I took the photo to a print shop for checking. The lady there examined it closely. Then asked, "You edited this? The way you added someone in? It's very well done, looks so real." I replied with a trembling voice. "I didn't edit anything." She stared wide-eyed. Strange. Really? This girl's face looked just like someone who came here a few months ago. But she didn't say a word, just stood there watching the photo printer for a while. Then left. I froze. Did she say her name? No, but the scent she carried was strange. Smelled like damp grass, like herbs. I went back to my room. It felt like someone was waiting for me there. I opened the door. Everything was the same, except the clay jar. This time it was placed in the middle of the table. No longer tucked in the drawer. I opened it. The old note was gone. In its place was a new line, written in violet ink. "You haven't truly left yet? Khai." 3 days later, I went to a psychologist. The doctor said I showed signs of derealization, possibly mild depression. They prescribed medication. I didn't take it, because I knew this wasn't an illness. It was the longing of a soul left unnamed. That night, I went to the bus station, bought a ticket to return to Kon Lang. This line doesn't go to Kon Lang anymore. Sir, road's been washed out for months. The ticket seller looked at me strangely. I pressed on. Do you have a phone number for the guest house near the district hospital? I did my internship there. She shook her head. There's no hospital there anymore. Sir, burned down. 3 months ago. Someone died in a guest house room. Burned from the inside out. No one knows why. I stopped cold. Do you know who it was? Not exactly, but they say it was a med student, returned alone, and never walked out again. I left the bus station, walking aimlessly down the sidewalk. The wind began to blow, gently, like a delicate hand brushing through my hair. Behind me, a voice called out, not loud, but just enough to make me stop. My heart clenched. You can't leave? You were the last one I waited for. I didn't turn around. I closed my eyes, letting the darkness embrace me. I've long lost track of how much time has passed since I left Kon Lang. The city remains the same. Crowded, bright, the sound of traffic piercing every corner. Only I can't hear anything anymore. Every sound seems to have been drained from my ears, replaced with a strange stillness, one that only those who stand on the edge between life and death can feel. I dropped out. No withdrawal form. Told no one. I packed up my books. swept the rented room, folded my clothes and put them in the closet. I wrote a single line on the wall. "Thank you for letting me stay." I don't know who I wrote it for. Maybe the landlady. Maybe for someone who still sits quietly in the corner every night. Gently placing a hand on my pillow. Afraid to wake someone up, I went to the post office. Sent a single envelope. No recipient listed. Inside were HMI's journal and my freshman year ID photo. The photo that the love charm once clung to. The one that started everything. I wrote on the outside, "If found, please burn." I never returned to the post office. One night, I walked along the canal, carrying the final clay jar. The water shimmered faintly under the streetlights. I let the jar go, watched it float away, quietly, like something finally returned to where it belonged. No one stood behind me. No voice called out, but I knew she was walking beside me. I didn't need to see anymore. From then on, I spoke to no one. Didn't pick up calls. Didn't answer messages. I lived as if alone, but always set out 2 pairs of chopsticks on the table. 1 glass of water on the nightstand, and a neatly folded white cloth at the corner of the pillow, embroidered with red thread in the shape of a herbal leaf. No one taught me that, but my hands remembered. People said I'd change. Doctors called it loss of reality connection. But I hadn't lost anything. I'd simply gone a little farther than most. To a place where you no longer need light to see each other. Every morning, I sat on the balcony. I didn't watch the streets. I stared into the empty space ahead, where sunlight no longer held a shape. And then, there would be a moment, where I saw her coming toward me. Gently, without sound, as if she chose, just once more, to return. "Have you been waiting long?" I wouldn't answer. I'd just smile, stand up, and walk after her, like I'd just awakened from a dream. One where no one remembers each other's names anymore. No one knows when I left that room. The door wasn't locked. The light was still on. The book remained open, on the middle page of HMI's journal. Just one thing was strange. The pillow on the left had a slight indentation. As if someone had lain there for many nights. And in the shadows of that small room, when no one was watching, a red thread hanging on the coat hook swayed softly. No wind, no touch, only that someone had just walked out, carrying something still lingering in their heart.